All right, what's up? I'm back with another video. This time I'm going to be responding to Sabby Sabs and Dark Matter 2525 because they have some videos out about stuff. First, I'm going to check out this Sabby Sabs video where she's kind of responding to the Nick Fuentes and Pierce Morgan interview or debate, whatever. I don't know if it's a debate or interview. I don't know. But basically, I just wanted to address specifically the point that she's talking about here, because a lot of people do this obfuscation where when white nationalists, or whatever you want to call them, white people, make the claim that black people disproportionately commit crime, and then black people go to the well, white people commit more crime. It's like, yeah, because they're 65% of the population, right? So, of course, they interact with all racial groups. So if you add up all the interracial crime, it probably will add up to more. But then if you say, well, what race commits the most interracial crime against white people, it's black people, right? And we'll see that even in the statistics that she shows in the video that she tries to skate over. But first, we have to get into this first point here.
13% of the population. And the reason why a lot of people don't realize that is because the census and how it's tracked. So if you don't complete the census, then you're not tracked in it. So that's part of the problem. But we're actually higher than 13% of the population. But let's get into this crime thing because
okay, so she's saying that black people are higher than 13% of the population, but she doesn't really present any evidence of how much higher, what the exact percentage is. I mean, you could still take an estimate of how many people didn't fill out the census or something like that. But she's just saying that some other guy said that's really not the best way to enter evidence, because that's called hearsay. If you say some other guy said that this thing and you're not actually presenting the evidence yourself. So that's to try to contest the proportionality of the crime statistics. But the crime statistics are just so high. I mean, even if black people were, let's say, 20% of the population, it still is a disproportionate amount of crime and specifically towards white people, which we'll see in a second. I'm gonna have to scroll up to show the actual data though that she's talking about.
I want to show you some of the data that I pulled up here. This part here I think is pretty interesting.
Most people are still on old school life insurance that only pays out if they die. The modern kind.
A lot of people get this wrong. If you look this up, they did a fact check. Reuters did false data on U.S. racial murder rates. So check this out. There was an image that lists the following categories: whites killing blacks 2%, police killing whites 3%, whites killing whites 16%, blacks killing whites 81%, police killing blacks 1%, and blacks killing blacks 97%. No dates are specified, and the data is attributed to stats from Wikipedia. But check this out. In the homicide section of Wikipedia's race and crime in the U.S. entry, the site quotes a report from the U.S. Department of Justice. And the report says that homicide trends in the U.S. between 1980 and 2008 found within that period, most murders were intraracial, with 84%.
Yeah, see, nobody's asking that. People are asking about interracial. What is the interracial proportion? And you can see right here, right? It's almost twice the amount. Oh, wait, you have to scroll. She has to scroll down.
Of white victims killed by whites and 93% of black victims killed by black perpetrators. According to the FBI's expanded homicide data from 2018, the most recent report of this kind that Reuters was able to find, 80.7% of the murders of white people were committed by white offenders. This is important for later on too, when he gets to that another part about this. While 15.5% of the murders of white people were committed by Black offenders. What this shows you is that most.
Yeah, you can see right here where it says 8.9% of Black victims were killed by whites, right? While 15% of the white people were killed by Black people. So it's almost twice the amount, right? Because it's like 7%. If it was like another 7 plus 7%, it would be like around 15%, right? So it's almost double the amount. And even if there's 20% of the population is Black, it's still disproportionate. There's no way around it. It's a disproportionate amount of crime, right? And then she's going to show this chart here, which again, okay, it's showing that overall white people commit more murder, which the FBI statistics don't show that at all. But we'll go with these numbers. Even still, right, there's only a 2,000 person gap in the murder rate. It's like 2,400 person, right? And even if Black people were 20%, even if Black people were 25% of the population, which they're not, there's no way, it's still disproportionate to the amount that white people commit, right? It's not 25%. It's only like, I don't even know. I guess if it was 10, it's like 20% less. So it would have to be 80% less Black crime than white crime for it to be proportionate. If the Black population was 20%, which I'm highly dubious of that claim. Maybe it's 14% or 15%, maybe. But to say it's like 20% or 25%, right? And it would have to be 80%. This crime statistic would have to be 80% less than this one, and it's not. Like it's maybe 20% less. Right? I'm just rounding off. I'm just guessing. Right? Then, so she already has two sources in her video alone showing that Black crime is disproportionate to white crime. Right? And then we can also see here, right, in this article from the globalstatistics.com, United States crime statistics by race, it says, despite representing only 13% of the total U.S. population, the share of violent incidents involving Black offenders, 25%, was greater than the population percentage of Black persons, highlighting disproportionate representation in violent crime statistics. And okay, so we can go into the historical and socioeconomical reasons, but the fact of the matter is it's happening. You can't deny that it's happening. And it makes you look bad because that's exactly what the question is. The question isn't, do white people commit more crime than Black people? The question is, per capita, is there a disproportionate amount of crime committed by Black people per capita? Meaning out of every 100 people, if you break it down into a fraction like that, then Black people commit more crime than white people on a per capita basis, not on a gross basis or a net basis or whatever. Right? Okay, if you add up all the people, right, and there's more people in one group than the other group, then you have to do it per capita. It just makes Black people look bad because it makes us look like we can't do math. And I don't think that, Sabby Sabs can't do math, especially basic math like this, where it's like, this is only 2,000 people less. And if Black people make up 80% of the population, then Black people should do 80% less crime for it to be proportionate, not 20% less crime, right? And that's the question that's in question. And then the interracial crime statistics as you saw in the part before, is higher, right? Only 8.9% of black victims were killed by white people, where 15% of white people were killed by black people. It's in your own statistics that you're showing right here. And then you're trying to talk about the reason it is segregation. Segregation doesn't have it. Segregation is the opposite of 15% of white people being killed by black people. Like, segregation does not account for this. It doesn't. It just doesn't. It can't account for the fact that 15% of the murders of white people were committed by, if there was segregation, then it would be 0%. It would be lower, right? And the fact is that white people per capita kill less people. That's what percent means. Out of 100, kill less black people than black people kill white people. And that's exactly what Nick is talking about. He's saying that there's an increased chance of a black person killing a white person than there is of a white person killing a black person. And since he's white, he's reserving the right to be prejudiced against black people. Right? And he's justified in that claim by citing the statistics that you're showing as your own statistical claim. Like, you can't show this as your evidence. And then in the evidence, it specifically shows the claim that you're arguing against. Like, we really have to do better than this. Like, this is crazy. Like, you think that this is like disproving something, and you're literally showing exactly what he's saying. This is exactly what he's saying. That a white person has more of a claim to be worried about a black person attacking them than a black person does having a white person attack them. Right? And then she goes on into like the Daniel Penny stuff. I'm not going to get into that because obviously with these incidents that happen, interpersonal incidents that happen, you know, we're not judges, we're not police. Like, for us to try to like publicly adjudicate these things from like our live streams where we're nowhere near the crime, we don't see any of the actual evidence, and we're just doing a public opinion piece on whether or not you like, you know, white guys being able to defend themselves, or whether or not, you know, homeless people should be allowed on the subway or not. These are different policies and things that are very like specifically detailed. And like, unless you have like the police reports and video evidence of what happened before and after the incident, like, it's really hard to like make like a real judgment, right? It's like even difficult with teams of like high powered lawyers and judges for them to like analyze all the evidence and come to a decision. So for us to sit here online and be like, oh, well, I saw a little clip of this, and you know what? I think Daniel Penny deserved to go to jail. Or somebody else is like, well, he should have killed that homeless guy anyway, right? It's like, we don't know. We weren't there. We don't know what happened. It's an interpersonal incident. But, you know, you can see why people want to make policy decisions if they are seeing that there's a higher number of white people being attacked by black people, and then they see incidents of, you know, crazy black people on trains, and then they see white people, at least in their eyes, defending themselves, and then that person's getting in trouble, then they feel as though the system is against them because it's not allowing them to defend themselves. And they have a justified claim because you can see that the disproportionality of crime between black people and white people is high. No matter how you want to slice it, even if you want to say that black people are 20% of the population, it's high. It's really high. And a lot of it is justified by rhetoric, like what Sabby Sabs is doing by saying, oh, it's caused by segregation, and really the white people are really secretly racist and they just want to get you. They're trying to trick you, but you're trying to trick black people. Because you're hoping that they don't pause the video and read that the counter evidence to your entire argument is sitting right here on the screen as you talk about how Nick Fuentes is really a racist and he's really a fraud or whatever. You're a fraud. This is fraudulent. The answer is right here on the screen to what he said. He said proportionately. He said, we're talking about proportionality, the proportion of black people, the ratio of black people committing crime against white people is higher than that of white people committing crime against black people. It's all over the place. The evidence is right there, right? And the interpersonal incidents are just that. They're interpersonal incidents that are supposed to be like adjudicated by a court. And I mean, people can give their opinion on it or whatever, but to act like we really know what happened before or what led up to the events, what was said, what was done, how the people on the train felt, if they felt threatened or what, we don't know. We weren't there. Okay, so let's get into this video by Dark Matter 2525. Now, I really like Dark Matter, actually. His video series, like Power Corrupts, I suggest everybody watch that, like, when you have time. It's kind of long. But, I mean, even if you're a Christian, you should watch it. Like, it's hardcore. And it's very well produced and all that stuff. But on this question, the woman question, I don't know, man. He's killing me with this. I started watching the video and I'm like, yeah, you know, he's got some good points against like Christian nationalists. He's a pretty good debater. Like, and if anybody should try to set up a debate with him, that would be awesome. Because he actually knows what he's talking about on a lot of that stuff. But then he shows this chart, right, of the Women's Peace and Security Index. And he's like saying how, well, you know, all the countries that are the most religious just happen to be the countries that are the least, you know, quote unquote, secure for women, meaning like women's rights, modern women, right? I mean, he's liberal or whatever, so I get what he's saying, right? But it's just like, bro, man, like, you just look at this map and then you look at this map, right? And it's just like, it's the exact same thing, right? It's the exact same map. It's just like, look, the lower the IQ, see all these gray countries right here? Those gray countries are the exact same countries that are the dark blue countries where that women have the least amount of rights, right? I mean, I'm laughing about it because it's just like, I don't know why people, like the fact that you can predict so many outcomes, so many social outcomes just by referencing this IQ map makes me believe that it's true. You know, it's like health, graduation levels, you know, the success of your cities and your agriculture and your industrial like output. They all match up with this map. And it's sad. It sucks. It sucks. I'm black, you know, it fucking sucks, man. It's like, what the fuck, bro? It's like, damn, man. It's like, you can't even fucking like work machines and shit. Like, it's like, it's fucked up, but still, it's true. And it's like, you look at the map and then you look at this, right? IQ and religion. Look, it's just true, right? It's like, the higher your IQ, the less likely you are to be highly religious. And not saying that there aren't some incredibly intelligent people that are highly religious, but it's just a trend. You know what I'm saying? It's just a trend that it tends to trend towards that. The more intelligent people are, the less likely they are to be highly religious, right? See, intelligent people are moderately and slightly religious, right? I guess your super geniuses like Elon Musk and all that, they're just like, whatever, I don't need God. And then, you know, the lower your IQ, the more religious you are, right? And it makes sense because, like Jay Dyer says, it's like, are you going to teach a bunch of 80 IQ people the intricacies of constitutional law and libertarianism? Or are you going to have a religion that tells them how to live their life and gives them like examples and models of how to live their life, right? So that's why they're religious. And then you can also see that those countries, their birth rates are pretty good. I mean, even, Central and South America is not as bad with the birth rates as America because they're Catholic. So, we can act like we're all cool and smart and, we beat religion, right? But one thing religion tells you to do is have more people, right? They're having so many people that they're sending them over here. Africa is sending people over here. India is sending people over here. China, right? I mean, China had a problem with the one-child policy, but I think it will balance out eventually. But they've been sending a bunch of dudes to Africa. All their excess dudes, they're sending them over to Africa, to like mine and build stuff over there, right? And then it's like, all these countries where all the smart people are at, all the super smart people that don't need God, they're like, yeah, we don't need God or babies. And then people here were like, they're like, well, we'll come up there and have some babies up here since you're not doing it, right? Because we believe in God. And we're going to oppress women. We're going to oppress women by making them make more human so that society can continue, right? It's the same thing. Like you can say that, the Christians want to bring in, but it's like you want to bring in things that are just going to allow the society to pretty much like topple altogether, right? It's like, okay, let's look at the Vatican. So it's like, okay, women's rights were highly restricted at this time. Nobody was getting an abortion. Nobody was like, having sex out of wedlock for the most part. I mean, there were people that were doing it, but it wasn't socially acceptable. Divorce, not socially acceptable. Definitely not an S-hole country. You see what I'm saying? Like you're trying to make the claim that it's like, this is the problem. No, sorry, this is the problem. This map and this map line up, right? But when Europe was like, everybody was getting married, they didn't have that same problem. They didn't have, see what I'm saying? They didn't have that same problem. You're telling me everybody, like most people weren't married during like Catholic Rome, when the church was like the dominant force and everybody was like supposed to be married, couldn't have sex out of wedlock and all that other stuff. Not saying everybody was doing it, but you can see. Do you think women were worried about their rights when they were going into the Vatican? That bunch of men built for them? Or when they were defending them from like Muslim invaders in the Crusades? You think women were worried about their rights, or were they like, oh, this is cool as F? Whoever built this, like, right? I mean, so you can say whatever you want, but the stats speak for themselves, right? The map that you're showing, where women have the least amount of rights, is also the place where people have the lowest IQ, right? And so therefore, to make the claim that doing the same thing that these countries do, i.e. having a religious kind of like state government, not a theocracy, but having a religious type of state government, is actually what's setting them back, even though it's obviously clear that when Europeans had a religious state government, they were not set back. And in fact, it was one of the coolest places in the world to be at. Like, I'm sorry. It sucks. Look, I'm black, man. I'm looking at this map like, God, like, damn. What the hell? You know what I'm saying? It's like, it sucks. But whatever. I mean, that's how it is, though. And I mean, so to say that being married and not having abortions and not having divorce is going to be the downfall of European society, bro, like, you got to do a little bit more research. I mean, I didn't do any research. I just looked at your video and then pulled up an IQ map, and that's all I had to do. And I'm like a debate bro online. Like, come on. So that's it. Check out their channels, link in the description below. Check out Dark Matter's series, Power Corrupts, for sure. It's great. Other than that, I'm going to get out of here. Thanks for watching if you did. If you didn't, you're not going to hear this anyway. So have a good day and peace.